I veliki pozdrav svima. Moje ime je David, dobrodošli u moj novi live stream. I kao što vidite, naslov live streama, danas pričamo o ovoj teškoj avionskoj nesreći koja se desila u Indiji. Kada je avion Boeing 787 Dreamliner krenuo za London Gatwick, znači iz Delhija, tako da kažem. Je krenuo za London Gatwick, ili možda ne znam, ali mislim da je možda iz onog drugog grada, nema veze. On je krenuo i onda je maltene malo posle poletanja je bukvalno se srušio tako što je udario nekoliko zgrada, a ta jedna zgrada je bila u studentskog doma, tako da, evo da vidite, znači taj snimak, evo da vidite, znači taj, evo ovo je rep praktično od aviona na toj jednoj zgradi. Ovdje se nalazi evo da vidite, ovo je uživo. Ajde, pustit ćemo ovo nešto pošto je uživo, da vidimo šta se tu zapravo, čekajte. Čekajte da uživo vidimo. Ću vam od početka.
It's fairly safe to say there won't be any survivors.
Evo da vidite, znači to je avion, ovaj rep od aviona, tu je ovaj APU, tako da kažem, najmanji motor u repu, tako da to je zadnji deo aviona praktično, koji stoji na toj zgradi.
And from the size of that explosion, everything is exploded. There are some ghastly videos right now of bystanders being charred. I really don't want to, even think about what happened inside that hostel.
Yeah. Can we just play out the video of
tu gde se srušio taj avion.
Just imagine
To tamo, ovo ovde je tu mesto gde se srušio avion, taj kod tih tu zgrada.
It's like the worst movie that you think can never be your life. That a big part of a flaming plane comes through your wall. Can I just play out this video and then come back to our guests?
Evo, to je tu gde je avion probio praktično, ovo je rupa koju je napravio avion ovdje u ovoj zgradi. Ali vidite kako je to strašno, kako to izgleda. Znači, ja ne znam, ja mislim da je ovdje mnogo ljudi nekih poginulo. Prosto su ti neki bili u toj zgradi kada je on zviznuo. Da su tim zgradama, pošto su to praktično stambene zgrade, mislim, tako da kažem.
Does involve other countries. There were 53 UK nationals, 7 Portuguese nationals, 1 Canadian national. Let me play out the bite of Ranjit Jaiswal speaking on behalf of...
Tako da žao mi je neko tih ljudi.
So Ayushi, first your question. What has happened in Ahmedabad is a very tragic accident. We have lost a lot of people. We extend our deepest condolences to...
Kasnije ću vam pustiti, to jest može biti u ovom prenosu taj snimak kada je on padao.
There are, I understand,
ali ne vidi se lepo.
Also, those updates you will receive from the relevant departments, Ministry of Civil Aviation, Air India and others. They are putting out something, I guess, soon. That's the latest that I can share. We also, it's still an evolving situation. Rescue operations are on, so you'll have to wait a little more time for exact details to be put out. But you would have seen, that everybody is concerned, and we once again convey our deepest condolences to all the families who've lost their loved ones.
I mean, what does one even say at this point? I want to talk a little bit about Boeing, Abhijit, and Group Captain. Again, it's speculative because we're looking at the range from fuel contamination to bird hits to engine failure to some wrong entries, maybe. We literally don't know. These are the 4 or 5 possibilities that have been listed by aviation experts. Group Captain, I just keep thinking, I mean, it could be, it's like 50 seconds that can change your life. 1 minute that can change your life. Ajay?
That's true. I would make my final comment, then I'll jump out and take care of something else. You can't really fight fate. The crew at least knew that
Ništa.
they don't have trust, and you can't fight gravity without trust. They knew they're going down, but those children, enjoying their lunch on a
Ništa.
working day, probably chatting and sharing stories about what happened in the calls. Death came from above. They had no time. They didn't even know what is wrong. So very, very tragic. Uh, Three of us in this panel right now, we have the luxury of being wrong. If we make some assessment which is not correct, we are making good faith assessment here, trying to figure out what
Evo,
went
evo
wrong.
ga snimak
If
pada,
we are
evo ga
wrong,
snimak
we can
pada.
be
Evo ga
corrected
snimak
tomorrow.
pada.
But those kids,
I
those
tu je
crew,
udario
those
u tu
passengers,
zgradu,
they are not
te
coming
tamo
back.
zgrade,
Uh,
i
that's
tako
my
se
final
srušio, to jest
word
tako je
here.
eksplodirao,
Let's all
tako da
spare a
kažem.
thought for those grieving. And we really, really hope, against hope, that there are some survivors,
Evo,
as
evo
many
ga
as
još jedan
possible.
snimak pada,
And I
to
really
je taj
hope the
isti snimak,
doctors
samo,
do their magic and save as
evo
many
sad ćete
lives as
vidjeti kako
possible.
je tresno.
And with that, I would really like to greatly maybe catch you some other time.
Yeah,
Eto, baš
thanks,
u
Group
tom
Captain,
trenutku
for
sad
your
je tresno.
comments. I want to just play
Tamo i
out.
zapalio
Abhijit,
se.
stay with us as long as you can. For anybody who's just joining us, it's been a terrible, grim, tragic
Opet.
day for Indian aviation, for international aviation. An Air India plane bound for London has crashed immediately after takeoff. The pilot from the cockpit did send a mayday message, but experts say that less than a minute changed it all. You can see that ball of orange fire as the plane exploded on impact of landing. That is what is important to say. We are not seeing clouds of smoke coming out of the engines, etc., as the plane is in the air. But as the plane crashes, you do see that ball of orange fire. On the ground, the plane crashed into a medical college where young people were just having lunch. There is fear of casualties on the ground. NDTV at this point is reporting that 5 students are
Evo,
feared
to je
dead.
rep taj koji je
We do
završio na
know
jednoj
what
od
the
zgrada.
pilot's last message
Gde je
was.
udario.
Apart from a mayday message, his ACARS message.
Evo, to su
He
ovo su
spoke
sve
of
dole
no
delovi
thrust,
od
losing
aviona.
power, unable to lift. Now, Abhijit, can you explain for people who do not understand aviation what this message actually means?
Okay, so basically, if this is a flight, lift is going up, thrust is going forward, drag it is what keeps you back. So, in order to lift, thrust has to be applied on an aerodynamic surface, which then moves like so. So, basically, what he seems to be indicating was that because he was losing power, he wasn't able to gain altitude, which is very consistent with, in this particular visual, if you notice behind the wings, normally the wing during takeoff should be like this. And what that does is it speeds up the airflow. Well, the airflow here stays normal, but the air takes a longer time below, and that makes the plane move up like this. There is significant drag. Drag is the forces pushing the plane back. Now,
Sad ću da
if
vidim
he
na
was
Flight
losing
Radaru možda
thrust,
nađem taj deo,
this
taj
makes
let.
perfect sense for him to keep his
Ovaj.
flaps absolutely straight,
To jest ne znam da li ima na
because
Flight
he's trying
Radaru,
to
ne
gain
znam
speed.
koji broj
But
leta je
then
bio.
what doesn't make sense is, why are the wheels down? Because the wheels add so much drag, and they're not
Ne znam
helping
da
you
li
gain speed, they're slowing you down.
ću mi uspjeti neko da
So
nađem to na
again, we
Flight Radaru.
don't
Sad
know
vidim
what
to na
happened. There
telefonu.
is too much in
Ja sam na
this
telefonu, ću
video
prvo neko pokušati da ga
that
nađem,
is
pa ću onda da
contradicting
se vratim.
even
Samo
this
pokušam
message
neko da
that
nađem na
Captain
Flight
Sumit
Radaru.
sent on the ACARS.
Okay, what is the contradiction? Let's explain. Let's try and understand that. Look, it's quite obvious that somewhere he's losing power, because if he had power, he would have lifted the plane to a higher altitude and tried a different landing, right? He would have actually tried an emergency landing. So I'm no expert, but I think it's quite clear that he didn't have enough power.
He didn't have power to do a
A sad
turnaround.
su
He
čuje na
didn't
N1,
have
znači
power, as you can
204
see, to
tela je
maneuver
nađeno
away from the buildings.
mrtvih.
There have been cases
Ah.
where even in fatal crashes,
Ne znam
pilots have been
kako...
able to maneuver away to at least save people on the ground.
Da, više
Here,
od 100 tela
that was
dovezeno je u
clearly not
bolnicu,
possible.
ako me
Now, in
dao,
order
ako
to
me da
be
batu
able to gain
posle pada
height,
aviona, rekao je da,
you
nisu
have to have
mrtvi, nego ih je
speed.
dovezao
If you lose
hitna
power,
pomoć.
so imagine if you're driving, for example, and your engine blows out, your car engine, you're going to come to a
Mogu da ga nađem
fairly
sad na Flight Radaru.
smooth stop, depending on the speed, because the car will slowly deaccelerate, right? The problem in the air is, when you deaccelerate, you
Da
fall
ima.
out of the air. Now, in order to avoid that,
Così non fai il trailer da ganaggi.
the tires should have been
Non
up.
fai il trailer da ganaggi.
Right now, the tires down here, they should have been up like
Così
so.
non fai il trailer con
But again, precisely because the captain might have been anticipating a crash, he had to try to make the best of a situation. There is no landing gear that is going to retract almost instantaneously or deploy instantaneously. I think we've all been on planes, so you know, the moment the captain says, cabin crew brace for landing, and you hear the noise of those wheels come down, Barkha. It takes about 10-15 seconds for those wheels. You hear the bloop and then the shh, and then you hear the click in place that happens. There was no time for that. This is clearly a extraordinary emergency where there are contradictions you see in the response in that particular visual.
Yeah. Let me, sorry, I'm just getting inputs in real time. So I was looking at those while listening to you. I want to play out for anybody who's probably, it's a little after 5 p.m.
Response to the fact that they expected to land given the loss of thrust. I think they expected to perform some kind of a landing because they'd already given the mayday immediately after takeoff, and the fact that the flaps were not deployed. They were clearly trying to gain speed somehow in order to compensate. Now, we don't know what was going on. It's only when the black box is recovered. Black boxes are usually orange in color. Once that's recovered, that we'll know exactly what the conversations in the cockpit that were happening at that time.
Okay. I want to bring in Group Captain Ajay Alawat, former Indian Air Force officer, to the program, someone who actually flies. Neha Lal is former cabin crew. Abhijit Iyer Mitra is an aviation geek, looking at all of these videos.
I'm also a pilot, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, you're a trained pilot? I didn't know that about you.
I have a private pilot's license. Yeah.
All right, that's good. That's good. I did not know that. Otherwise, I would have contextualized that. So thanks for letting us know. Group Captain, again, Abhijit was just talking about a possible loss of thrust after takeoff. Did the plane lose power? Did the engines malfunction? Because it all happened in a matter of a few seconds. And, we do not actually see any smoke coming out of the plane. Look at that video. There's no smoke visible out of the plane, and suddenly on impact, there's a ball of orange fire, right? And what do you think, without being speculative, again, we have to wait for the black box, as Abhijit said, Group Captain, from all your experience of flying, understanding these machines, what do you think has happened here? Because a mayday call was given.
First of all, it's a terrible news with 250 odd people in the aeroplane, and the impact site where young doctors were having their food. Terrible news. We suspect, lot of loss of life. Our heart goes out to the families. We hope and pray we get as many people out alive as it is possible.
Absolutely.
Having said that, I have heard the two speakers before. Everybody agrees at this stage we are speaking from very, very limited knowledge, but we know for a fact, based on the ADS data, that the aircraft had gotten to an altitude about 650 feet barometric, that is about 450 feet above the surface, and when it descended, it was descending with a rate of descent about 475 feet per minute. So the time available to the crew was not in minutes, was in seconds. Fortunately, the crew are trained for such situations. Catastrophic failure at V1, etc. They do a lot of training in the simulators. Having looked at the video, there is one thing that stands out, which Mr. Mitra also mentioned, that the landing gear is down, and it appears, I don't know, I'm not too sure, that the flaps are up. This is a very peculiar configuration. It is possible that the gear was raised as the aircraft started showing positive climb, and the flaps are retracted on some kind of height speed schedule. I don't know what exactly happened, but the configuration as seen in the video is slightly peculiar. We will know more when we get access to the flight data recorder. and we'll know more in terms of what the crew spoke to each other, and we will also know how this configuration change happened. So nothing more I can add at this stage, because anything I say will be speculative, and to be proven wrong on such a case would really be bad.
No, again, I totally appreciate that, and Abhijit was making the point, and I completely agree that it's so easy to be armchair, sit in armchair judgment on pilots, on crew, and not know what it takes to actually fly these machines. How every day is a possible risk that you take with your lives. But group captain, could you please talk about these seconds? I think that is an important point. I'm not asking you to speculate on anything else, but the fact is that we know that the plane crashed or at least part of the plane crashed on a doctor's hostel, medical college. There was a mayday call, but there was no time. Like, what could lead to that situation that you take off and suddenly something obviously has to fail? Like, either power or engine. Like, it has to be. There is an instant, what we do know, and this is not speculative, we know this from the
Sad ću pokušat
DGCA,
neko da ga
that the
nađem
crash is
na,
immediately
na
after
flight
takeoff.
radaru, znači to je to, znači da je udario. Sad ćemo da vidimo na flight radaru. Sad vidim na flight radaru neko da ga prikažem. Idemo ovako filters. Znači ovako ćemo. Ćemo ovdje, ne filter. Aircraft 787, 788. B787, taj. 8 Dreamliner, to jest. Continue. Airport.
Slušaj se avion Air Indije, pronađeno više od 200 tela za sve.
Znam.
A znaš da imam preživio?
Ja znam, čuo sam se to. Ahmedabad, da. LGV. Hajdemo onom Getrik, to je to. Continue. Ajde, Air India. Air India. Tako ćemo, continue. Idemo sad ovdje da Ahmedabad u London, znači to je negdje ovdje bi trebalo da se prikaže. Sad ću ja playback da uključim, čekajte. Koliko sati gdje da vratim to, čekajte. Sad ćemo da vidimo. Vratimo negdje ovamo. Koliko to sati je bilo? To je bilo negdje oko 11 ujutru, oko 9 ujutru. Oko 9 ujutru. Sad ću pokušati negdje da nađem. Ovaj. Ne. Čekajte da nađem samo još sekund jedan. Filters. Vidimo koje je to registracije bio. VTANB. Registration. Ne, nema registracije. Nema veze. Pokušat ćemo negdje da nađemo. To je ovaj VTANB, to je upravo ovaj avion, ali to nije taj let koliko ja znam. Što ti ne da ja je da ga nađem na flight radaru. Pokušavam negdje Ahmedabad, Delhi, Ahmedabad, London. To je tu se negdje desilo, oko 10 sati ujutro danas. Da se tu negdje oko 9 i nešto se to desilo. Evo sad ću da vam prikažem ko je taj. Pustit ću ga da se nađe negdje ovdje, vjerovatno. Nisam ga našao.
Nema ga na flight radaru, jel?
Ne znam.
U lokalnom vremenu kad je bio.
Ne znam. Još da vidim da vratim. To je upravo ovaj avion. To je upravo ovaj, mislim, baš ovaj primjerak aviona. To je baš taj što se srušio. To je baš taj. To je taj. VTANB, to je upravo ovaj. To je upravo taj avion. Sad ćemo da čekajte. Sad ću ja malo da zoomiram to tu. To se tu ne desilo. Tako da ja ću to da zoomiram nekako malo. I tu ovdje se negdje srušio taj avion. Mislim da je to negdje bilo ovdje da se srušio. Tačno tu negdje se srušio. Kada je to ću vidjeti kad bude poleteo za London. Pošto je neko poleteo i onda se ovdje valjda negdje srušio. Ovdje otprilike. Tako da je malo da ubrzam ovo. Znači da ubrzam. Malo sam ubrzao. To nije ovaj. Ne. Nije taj, ovaj na poletanju se srušio. Nije na sletanju, nego na poletanju. Ja taj da vam pokažem, taj let. Što ovdje desilo? Blizu Ahmedabadskog aerodroma. I svi letovi su otkazani na Ahmedabad, mislim do daljnjeg. Nisam uspio da ga nađem, vjerovatno toga nema na Flight Radaru, tako da ništa, ja bih ovdje završavao polako ovaj live stream i veliki pozdrav.
Evo ništa, evo mi se čujem sestrom ovdje Gordanom nešto dogovaramo da nam pazi ovdje malo ovo mačočiće naše. Pa nema nego da pomogne